Okay, we're continuing with the quotes in alphabetical order. David Ogilvy, he lived from 1911 to 1999. He wrote Confessions of an Advertising Man about running an advertising company. He said, the best ideas come as jokes. Make your thinking as funny as possible. That's true. Like when you're hanging out with your friends, a good story is one that's funny. Keep your opening paragraph down to 11 words. A long first paragraph frightens people away. All of your paragraphs should be as short as possible. Long paragraphs are fatiguing. Yeah, I agree with that. Like if you notice in my books, I use 16 font on all my last, 10, 15 books, because I want it to be easy for the reader, kind of pleasant. You turn the pages a little faster. Let's see, what else? Yeah, in short paragraphs. I always like short paragraphs. They're easy to read. If you can't advertise yourself, what hope do you have of advertising anything else? But we're now in a time where, when I was a kid growing up, America meant the best. We were proud of America. We Russia sucks, communist shithole. They're all starving, those, bastards, because they can't farm anything, Ann Coulter said, communism caused 70 years in a row of bad weather. What I'm trying to say is we were proud, we were kind of arrogant. Now the United States is different. It's kind of feminized and pussified. And what I mean by that is you'll have human resources organizations at a lot of these corporations, and they're totally against hiring the type of people of the most talented. The most talented people are usually cocky men, okay? They're cocky. They know they're the best. Where there's if you're trying to hire somebody for your company, somebody who knows that they're like the Michael Jordan of their field or the Larry Bird or whatever, they know they're the best, they're going to be kind of cocky. They're not going to sit there and kiss your butt and be all polite. And you'll have human resources people who will reject them because of that. And I know that when I was, in medical school, I was student athlete year at Stanford. I expected to get into whatever school I went to. I was, top student around Stanford, okay? And I went to Northwestern, and they had me interviewed by this Asian girl, and she asked me how I liked Northwestern. And like I said, I was stupid and young at that time, and I'm just like, well, I like the fraternity. I don't really like Stanford too much, but I like being in an athlete fraternity, and I like fraternity parties. And she's like, oh, like I was this evil fraternity guy. I didn't even have a girlfriend in 4 years at Stanford. That's how boring my life was, all right? But still, I could tell. Because I said I liked a fraternity, I got rejected at Northwestern. I would have graduated first in my class at Northwestern, okay? But I got rejected because I made that offhand remark. Because everything else went great. And I could tell. She just sensed, oh, you're a stuck-up fraternity jock. Not the kind of boy who will go out with me. Therefore, I'm going to block you in this interview process. I'm like, so that's how it goes. I had another interview. Yeah, I didn't get accepted at Stanford either because I wasn't a little kiss ass. I know this one guy, he was a terrible student. But he kissed ass to this professor who wrote him a letter, got him in over at Stanford doing research. I couldn't do research. I was playing sports. But anyways, I've seen a lot of that happen, is that the best people, they don't even have a chance to get the job or a chance to get promoted because they don't match what is being looked for. And a lot of times it's mediocrity. It's just the right type of person, that's sort of like let's say you talk about minorities. I'm like the best minority doctor in the whole world, but nobody wants to talk to me. Not a single person's ever contacted me and said, we want a Hispanic doctor to talk to students. No, they have no interest in me. They want affirmative action, kiss butts, who they can control like puppets. They don't want a genius like me who's going to just tell them whatever the truth is, who's going to do whatever's right. We're not welcome. That's what I'm trying to say is high-level competence is not welcome in modern America. It gets you in trouble. If you improve something in medicine, you get in trouble. Okay, if you improve something, and look at the literature world. If you try to write a masculine book, they won't publish it. All these publishing companies. Tucker Max used to talk about that. He said the reason men read less is not because men don't like reading. It's because everything that the big publishing corporations publish, it sucks. It's effeminate, mediocre crap. You can write romantic novels for women. They might like that, but if you want to entertain men, it's going to have to be something that they feel is relevant to their life. Anyways, continue with David Ogilvy. The headline is the most important part of most advertisements. The headline is usually read by at least 5 times as many people as the body of the advertisement. You can't save souls in an empty church. Yeah, that's why the church sucks so bad, because it's infiltrated by pedophile, homosexual, low IQ, alcoholics, and scumbags, and they don't let noble masculinity in, and so the attendance just keeps going down, 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 and they won't fix it, and they won't resist the 503 exemption rule, so that's why the church attendance is going down, and then the current popes and antichrist destroying the church And he's doing that on purpose so that people will reject the church. And it's kind of sad. So the organized church is in the garbage can right now, and I don't know, what it could take. Protestantism is so bleak and boring, it has a hard time, even though it actually does have some good pastors. And there's a lot of good Catholic men on the internet, but you don't see them at the churches. Anyways, what are you going to do? Ogilvy continues, I know that television is the most potent advertising medium ever devised, and I make most of my living from it. Consumers do not buy products. They buy product benefits. Repeat your winners. If you are lucky enough to write a good advertisement, then keep repeating it until it stops selling. The creative process requires more than reasoning. Most original thinking isn't even verbal. It requires a groping, experimentation with ideas, led by intuitive hunches and inspired by the unconscious. The majority of businessmen are incapable of original thinking. And what he also said, I don't have the quote here, but I know he said this. He said, just study your field and know it as well as you can. And then what will happen is if you've really studied it truly, legitimately, and deeply, you'll just get ideas. They pop from your unconscious into your conscious. Grab a pen and write them down. Have a piece of paper and a pen always available in your apartment or your house that you can write an idea down real fast when you have it, because that's how it'll come to you, through your unconscious. Boom. Talent is most likely to be found among nonconformists. Totally true. It's the same people that human resources hates are the people that are going to be the most talented people in the organization. Okay? That's just a fact. These human resources right now are basically filters to block the talented men from getting a job. And that's why all these organizations are going to. And a lot of these organizations, too, they have a monopoly. And because they have a monopoly, they don't care about talent. America is ceasing to become a meritocracy. That's very bad. And again, it's bad to have monopolies in business, because then the monopoly can control the field and they no longer care about producing a quality product. You want competition. Then they have to produce to grow. Okay, here's a quote. He said, Conan Doyle wrote that mediocrity knows nothing higher than itself. My observation has been that mediocre men recognize genius, they resent it, and they feel compelled to destroy it. Yeah, they gang up against the genius. It's like that book, what is it? Confederacy of Dunces, okay? And you will know, how will you know there's a genius in your midst, that there's a confederacy of dunces aligned against him, trying to block him? Okay, David Ogilvy, there are very few men of genius in advertising agencies, but we need all of them that we can find. Almost without exception, they are disagreeable. Don't destroy them. They lay golden eggs. Yeah, most of the people that are really smart, they're kind of antisocial because they're pissed off about the conformist lies that you sort of have to play along with if you want to get along in society. And they don't like wasting their time with that. And then they don't like not being able to speak freely. Okay, I'm supposed to pretend that medications are the best way to treat coronary artery disease? Please, that's an insult. Okay, he continues. Few of the great creators have bland personalities. They are cantankerous egoists, the kind of men who are unwelcome in a modern corporation. That is correct. Okay, there's lots of people that are really polite. They cross their legs in a very fashionable way. They never say anything offensive, but they also never say anything brilliant either. David Ogilvy, there is one stratagem which seems to work well in almost every case for sales. Get the prospect to do most of the talking. The more you listen, the wiser he thinks you are. The consumer isn't a moron. The consumer is your wife. Anyways, I hope you found that interesting.